My name is Catherine Thompson, born just 3 minutes after my twin sister, Jennifer. Those few moments marked a significant boundary in our lives. While it was just a 3-minute difference, it immensely shaped our separate paths. Our parents, Richard and Dorothy, ran a real estate business in a quiet suburban neighborhood. My mother was always dressed in designer clothes. Her appearance was perfected with makeup, as she headed out to showcase luxurious apartments. My father was deeply engrossed in managing the company, immersed in a world of numbers. On the surface, our family projected a facade of harmony. Yet beneath this exterior, there lurked a subtle but pervasive distortion that I became acutely aware of by the tender age of 5. We were born as fraternal twins. As a result, just like siblings in other families with an age difference, our facial features and appearances were distinct from each other. Jennifer had a radiant and beautiful face with slightly curly hair, appearing almost angelic when present. In contrast, I was quite average, plain-faced and easily overlooked, certainly not the angelic type. Unlike other parents who might dress their twins in identical outfits, ours chose distinctly different paths for us. Jennifer was adorned in the latest designer wear while I received hand-me-downs or clearance items. She played with genuine Barbie dolls, whereas I had imitation toys from the dollar store. Even our birthday cakes were divided unequally, with Jennifer always getting the larger share on top of receiving more gifts. At the age of 6, Jennifer started ballet lessons. When I asked them if I could take it too, I was told that enrolling both of us was not feasible. Strangely enough, Jennifer's extracurricular activities continued to expand: gymnastics, piano, painting classes. It was evident in our family photos. Jennifer was always at the center, dressed in fancy clothes from upscale children's boutiques, while I blended into the background in generic, mass-produced attire. It felt as though I was an outsider in my own family photos. Each night, as I lay in bed gazing at the ceiling, I would ponder. Perhaps my parents simply do not see me. I managed to endure the disparities in material possessions as a child, understanding that one doesn't require luxurious clothing or toys to live. However, the real pain stemmed from the palpable difference in our parents' affection. Whenever Jennifer spoke, our parents would lean in, hanging on her every word. In contrast, whenever I spoke, their gazes would never settle on me. They would give non-committal responses, making it unclear whether they were even listening, and would quickly shift the conversation back to Jennifer. Entering elementary school brought a faint glimmer of hope. Dressed in identical school uniforms, navy blazers, checkered skirts, and pristine white blouses, I harbored a slight hope of being seen as an equal. Smile, our mother would instruct us during photo sessions, her camera lens invariably focused on Jennifer. Jennifer, turn your head a bit to the right. Yes, perfect. My familiar heartache returned. Even in the same uniform, it was clear whom my mother was determined to showcase. Our school environment was a clean, well-ordered space with alphabet charts on the walls and neatly arranged desks. We were twins in the same class, and our teacher, Mizu Johnson, seated us in alphabetical order. Sitting next to each other, we were arranged as Thompson. For once it seemed as though we were treated equally by someone outside our home. However, this semblance of parity was short-lived, dissipating the moment we stepped outside the classroom. The same scene played out every day. My mother's black SUV would pull up, and without a glance in my direction, she'd instruct me, "Catherine, go straight home and do your homework," while turning to Jennifer with a bright smile. "Let's go to your ballet lesson, Jennifer." The week was filled with Jennifer's lessons: ballet on Monday, piano on Tuesday, art on Wednesday, gymnastics on Thursday, and drama on Friday. I would watch them leave, and then head into the silent house alone. I threw myself into my studies, hoping that perfect grades might make my parents notice me. I worked on math problems, practiced the alphabets, and read ahead in textbooks at the kitchen table for hours. After a long silence, I would hear the garage door and their cheerful voices echoing in the hallway. Holding on to a faint hope that my mother might turn her attention to me, I studied alone in the empty house every day. "Mom, I got a perfect score on my test," I announced one day, holding up my answer sheet. "That's nice, Catherine," she replied indifferently, organizing Jennifer's ballet bag. "Jennifer, show your father your new dance." But I didn't give up. I collected my perfect scores, accolades from teachers, and numerous gold star stickers like precious treasures, each harboring a silent prayer that they might one day suffice to draw my parents' gaze. Then, one pivotal night, everything was irrevocably altered. It was just after I turned 12. Having finished my homework, I was on my way to get some water when I overheard my parents' voices coming from the study. Normally, I would ignore their conversations, but this time I found myself stopping in my tracks. Sometimes I wonder my father's voice carried an unusual weight. "Maybe it was too much for us," he said. "What do you mean?" my mother asked. "Having twins. Jennifer alone would have been enough. She's the perfect daughter we always wanted. But two." I understand my mother's side. Jennifer is special. She has a wonderful future ahead of her. But Catherine, she's just there. It would have been better if it had just been Jennifer. I almost dropped the glass I was holding. I hastily grabbed it again, but in its place, it felt as though my heart shattered like an illusionary echo. At that moment, everything became clear. All the years I spent trying to earn my parents' love, holding on to the hope that maybe things would change, all of it seemed foolish. They never wanted me. From the beginning, I was the unnecessary twin, the daughter who should not have been born. That night marked a change within me. I stopped seeking my parents' approval and instead focused on my academics, setting my sights on independence from my family, freed from the burden of trying to please them. My mind opened up in unexpected ways. My already good grades improved significantly as I moved on to middle school. "Excellent analysis," Catherine Mizu Anderson praised me during English class as she held up my essay. "This is the depth of thought I am looking for, everyone." I could feel Jennifer's pencil hitting the desk harder as she sat next to me, her face turning red with frustration. This scenario was repeated in other subjects: math, science, social studies. The more the teachers praised my work, the more intense Jennifer's reactions became. One evening, I inadvertently overheard Jennifer's grievances echoing from the living room below. "Mom, the teachers are being mean. They always praise Catherine and make me look bad. They're doing it on purpose." The next day, my mother, her designer brand handbag swinging, stormed into the school with the click of her heels echoing down the hallway. "Why are the teachers discriminating against Jennifer?" she demanded in the principal's office. Mr. Harrison, our homeroom teacher, maintained a calm and professional demeanor. "Mrs. Thompson, this isn't a case of discrimination. Please take a look at their academic records." He carefully displayed our grades for her inspection. Catherine consistently achieves top marks across all her subjects. As for Jennifer, "Are you saying my Jennifer is stupid?" my mother interrupted. "No at all. But Catherine's academic performance is." This is exactly the discrimination I'm talking about. You clearly have a bias against Jennifer. No amount of evidence could convince her otherwise. That day, I heard my mother telling my father, "The teachers are discriminating against our precious Jennifer." Days turned into years, and high school graduation day arrived. When my name was called as the valedictorian, my parents barely clapped. However, when Jennifer walked across the stage, they cheered as if she had won an Olympic gold medal. And then the day everything changed arrived, the day after graduation. "I have some exciting news," my mother announced at breakfast, barely able to keep still in her chair. "We're going on a trip to Hawaii to celebrate your graduation." For a moment, my heart leapt, thinking that maybe, just maybe, this would be different. "Look," my mother turned to me with a dismissive tone, "we could only get 3 tickets. You understand, right? It's necessary for someone to stay behind to look after the house." She then tossed a thick envelope in front of me. "Also, take a look at this." As I opened it, inside were numerous unpaid bills and detailed statements of debt. The total amount was staggering. "Sort this out while we're gone," my father stated bluntly. "You're smart, right? You should be able to handle it." Jennifer, stirring her orange juice, smirked smugly. "Don't worry, Catherine. I'll send you lots of pictures from the beach." The next morning, I stood at the front door, watching them load their expensive suitcases into the taxi. Jennifer turned back with an exaggerated wave. "I'll send you some lovely photos from Hawaii," they said as they left me behind with a mountain of debt. As the taxi turned the corner and disappeared, I felt my body shake with anger and disappointment. At that moment, I remembered something a shout from a phone call my mother had years ago. "I don't want anything to do with it anymore. That cheap house and those tacky clothes. It's just embarrassing. I've moved up in social status." She had screamed, talking to her own parents, my grandparents, whom she referred to as low class and had cut off ties with, the grandparents I had never met. I immediately sneaked into my mother's study and found her address book. At the very back, I found what seemed to be my grandparents' names alongside an address in an old town. That evening, I visited my grandparents' home, a modest house with a well-maintained garden. My heart pounded as I rang the doorbell. The door opened and an elderly couple appeared. My grandmother had her gray hair neatly tied back, and my grandfather wore thin-framed glasses. "Who might you be?" They looked puzzled, but their expressions changed as I began to speak. "My name is Catherine Thompson. I believe you are my grandparents." My grandmother covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh, you are Dorothy's." Their warm gazes suddenly made me well up with tears. They invited me inside their home. I sat in their cozy living room, sipping the coffee they offered. They seemed unable to take their eyes off me. "You look just like your mother when she was young," my grandmother said softly, her tone imbued with nostalgia. For the first time, I experienced a sense of genuine recognition. I was recognized for who I was, not evaluated or compared. As I held back tears for years, they finally started to overflow. They left me behind. I began to sob as I told them about the years of differential treatment by my parents, the Hawaii trip, and the statement of debts. By the time I finished, my grandfather's expression had changed. Actually, he began in a firm yet gentle tone. "That house belongs to us. Your parents are merely tenants." He revealed that he had worked in real estate over 20 years ago, handling many prime properties as a senior executive during prosperous times. However, as the economy declined, the company went bankrupt. Just before that, he had the opportunity to buy that house, which was a liquidated property of the company, at a very low price. At that time, the neighborhood was underdeveloped and the property values were minimal. My grandfather continued. "I saw the potential in real estate and invested almost all of our savings to buy it." "But my mother," I asked, puzzled. "Dorothy said it was her house," my grandmother interjected. "After the company went bankrupt, we lived a modest life. It was really tough at times. Dorothy was ashamed of our life. When she was young, we were quite well off. She couldn't bear the downgraded lifestyle. She said she would succeed in business with Richard, and not end up like me." My grandfather's voice was tinged with deep sadness. My grandmother explained that when my mother got married, my grandparents offered to provide a house for my parents with the agreement that they would pay rent. However, as my parents' business began to take off, my mother started telling people that they had bought the house themselves. "We turned a blind eye," my grandfather continued. "We knew Dorothy was embarrassed to admit receiving help from us, but it was understood that they would continue to make rent payments. However, rent payments began to fall behind about 5 years ago. The last call from Dorothy was 3 years ago." My grandmother's voice quivered slightly. She said, "We are managing the house for you. You should be grateful for that alone." And she claimed, "The property value has more than doubled. We are managing it, so stop demanding rent like it's something prestigious." My grandfather continued with a bitter expression. After saying that, she hung up the phone and completely cut off contact with us. Since then, my father's real estate company had taken on a significant amount of debt from risky property investments and was suffering from serious business downturns. Behind their glamorous lifestyle, the debts were snowballing. Dorothy cut off ties with us and was ashamed to speak of us. As poor parents, my grandmother's voice was filled with sorrow. But in reality, they were the ones who couldn't even pay the monthly rent. My eyes widened in shock. When Dorothy last called, we didn't sell the house because we thought maybe one day she would understand, my grandfather said with a stern expression. But we can't overlook this any longer. Meanwhile, my grandparents had been living modestly while investing in several IT companies, and those investments had paid off handsomely. Your mother left saying we were too poor, my grandfather said, shaking his head. Ironically, we are now wealthier than ever. We just don't feel the need to show it off. Then, my grandmother pulled out a bundle of aged documents. This is the deed to the house. We have kept all the records of unpaid rent. We have the right to dispose of the items in the house to pay off the debt. It's time to end your parents' lavish lifestyle. At that moment, my cell phone vibrated. It was a photo message from Jennifer, posing on a Hawaiian beach with the caption, "Wish you were here, LOL." I looked at the message, then at my grandparents' faces, and then at the stack of documents in front of me. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the lesser twin. Over the next 2 weeks, I slowly arranged for real estate agents and buyers. My parents' cherished luxury furniture, my mother's branded collections, my father's expensive car, all were put up for sale. Each day, my phone vibrated with new notifications of Jennifer posing on different beaches, dining at upscale restaurants, and relaxing in infinity pools, each picture accompanied by increasingly arrogant captions. Living the best life. This is what success looks like. Winners spend their time in Hawaii, others only dream about it. As I continued with the task at hand, the house gradually emptied, feeling like a weight was being lifted from my heart. Then, the day they were due to return arrived. I pretended to read a book in the living room, peeking through the window. I watched as the taxi arrived and their reactions unfolded one by one. My mother was the first to enter the now bare house, stopping so abruptly that Jennifer, following close behind, bumped into her. My father, struggling with a set of expensive suitcases, nearly tripped over them. "What have you done?" my mother said in a hollow voice, her hands trembling as she clutched her designer bag. "What did you do?" My father blamed me, his face reddened from the Hawaiian sun and shock. Jennifer burst out laughing, though her laugh was tinged with uncertainty. "You're joking, right? Everything's gone." "It's to pay off the debts," I replied calmly. "Oh, and take a look at this," I said, handing over the documents my grandparents had entrusted to me. "From Grandpa and Grandma. I heard they actually own this house, and they want you to leave," I informed them. My mother's tanned face went pale. "What?" "Yes, your parents. The two poor and embarrassing ones," I continued as I handed over the legal papers. "You have 30 days to vacate this house. Of course, I'm leaving too. I'm going to live with them." Jennifer started crying. "But what about my room? My clothes? Most of it's already sold to pay the debts." The photos from Hawaii were nice, weren't they? My father turned to my mother. "Dorothy, call your parents right now," he commanded with the same tone he used when ordering in a restaurant. My mother's hands trembled as she took out her cell phone, her French nails sparkling in the sunlight. When my grandmother answered the phone, my mother didn't even bother to greet her but switched to speakerphone and shouted, "What is this about?" Her voice echoed. Over the phone, my grandmother's voice was calm and slightly amused. "Oh, it's been a while. Did you enjoy your fancy vacation? I saw the lovely pictures your daughter posted. The Royal Hawaiian Hotel is fabulous this time of year, isn't it?" "Don't change the subject. Why do we have to leave the house?" my mother demanded. Well, my grandmother's voice was satisfied. "Your two poor and embarrassing parents are actually quite wealthy now." My mother's tone suddenly changed, becoming as sweet as honey. "Mom, I've been thinking. Let's put the past behind us and start over. Family is important, after all." Indeed, my grandmother's voice was cold. By the way, my mother's eyes shifted towards Jennifer, who already seemed to be calculating something. Did you forget Jennifer, your other grandchild? If Jennifer loses the house and ends up homeless? My grandfather's laughter then echoed over the phone. Are you talking about the granddaughter you took to Hawaii? The one who left Catherine behind? My mother's face turned red. It's not like that. Look, grandparents should treat their grandchildren equally. They are the same age, after all. Equally, my grandmother's voice sharpened. I don't think you're one to talk. Shouldn't parents love their children equally? But it seems that wasn't the case in your household, she pointed out before my mother could respond anything, and the call ended. The weeks that followed were filled with turmoil. My parents tried desperately to reconcile with my grandparents, but it was too late. They were forced to move into a cheap apartment, and Jennifer struggled to accept that her luxurious lifestyle had crumbled instantly. Meanwhile, I started a new life at my grandparents' house. They fully supported my college education. Each morning, I woke up to the smell of my grandmother's warm coffee and chatted with my grandfather over the newspaper. I never knew such ordinary happiness could be so precious. As my new life at university began, I chose to study law. I want to specialize in family law in the future, protecting the rights of children who grow up in complex family environments. One evening, after returning from university, my grandmother told me, "Your parents came today." My heart skipped a beat. What did they say? Oh, the usual. Your mother came with a fake smile, offered a hollow apology, tried to probe our financial situation, and hinted about Jennifer's upcoming birthday. Your father was looking around the house, probably trying to estimate our assets. How did you respond? My grandfather joined in. I told them that we've already decided on how our assets would be used. It's all going to you, he stated. I could imagine my mother's forced smile crumbling. What was their reaction? Well, my grandmother laughed. Dorothy's smile definitely fell apart. I told them not to come back again. That night, I blocked my parents' and Jennifer's phone numbers and all their social media accounts. I knew that messages of regret and offers to make amends would come, but I no longer needed such a family. I don't harbor any hatred towards them. Rather, I quietly accept that there comes a time when everyone must face the consequences of their choices. Living with my grandparents, I learned what unconditional love is for the first time. The happiness of being recognized for who I am without comparison. Sometimes, the most unexpected events can lead to the most beautiful outcomes. Now, as I take notes in constitutional law class, I occasionally think about the little girl who once prayed for her parents' love. I want to tell her that something better is waiting. Not just love, but respect, support, and the freedom to be oneself. The love from my grandparents has given me the chance to turn a new page in my life. While the past with my parents did come with pain, it has now strengthened me and become a part of who I am.